Hi everybody, happy Halloween. Am I scary enough for you? Anyway, I wasn't going to do a video today, not planned at all, but it was my watering day and it was my, by the watering schedule, I was on my 6th week. And it was the seaweed extract, which I did. And as I was watering, I looked at the last orchid that I repotted. I drop potted it on September 6th, and I did a video on it on the 9th of September. And in fact, the flowers, where are they? Let me see if I can reach them. Okay, the happy hook. Okay, there. Those are the flowers. Are they showing up? Yeah, those are the flowers that were on the orchid that I repotted. So anyway, this is sort of a lesson for all of us, is to check the pots before you water to see how they look. And I wasn't liking how this orchid looked. I brought it over the sink and I don't know. So I dumped out the bark on this cookie tray. On the, I never know what I'm doing. On this dish rack. So I thought it looked awful wet. I've gone at least a week, and the bottom was wet. The top was dry. And so I didn't like that, but I thought, well, we better check the orchid. So here we go. It was in this pot, as you know. This is a pot that I really liked, and there's a bit of a story too, because remember last video, or the last one, or the one before, but I said I had repotted the orchid and I put it inside another pot on my counter, which I never do, but I thought the other pot was pretty and I did it. And then when I took it out on the last watering day, it was moist on the bottom. So I thought, oh boy, that's the difference of putting one pot inside another pot, is it doesn't dry out as quick. So this has been out since then, but it was still holding moisture. It has lots of holes. They're smaller holes, but lots of holes. And it, as you see, so anyway, if you check the last video from the 9th when I potted it, it had lots of rotten roots in the center, and there was a few aerial roots that I said, well, those are going to keep this plant alive, hopefully, right? And the green ones I put up near the top. So, and pretty well everything in the center was rotten. I did a close-up of it, so if you looked at it, you'd see it. So this is what I found today. And it's had its soak in the seaweed extract. Oops. And I wasn't liking the look of the leaves at all, because I'd done everything right. And so this is how it happens. Its flowers are still good, and they could be on the plant and still look good. But orchids are funny. They put flowers out to continue their breeding process, or whatever they call it. So anyway, they can flower when they're dying, and that's why they will, right? So anyway, I still have the flowers. They've been on the table, on the counter. I'm enjoying them still. And you can cut your flowers off and you can enjoy them still. So I thought, well, we better have a closer look. And on closer look, these are where it lost all the roots. And I leave these because I just pull the outer casing off. And I feel the more you cut into something, the more chance of infection. So I usually leave them. Now, up near the top, like this one has a green root, but up near here, it's not really in good shape. Okay, so, and this one, I think it's quite soggy in here, but it's still trying to do something. And this part I don't really like, but I'm going to leave it because it's not rotten. Now, these here, as you can see, it's green on the bottom, but in the center where it had all the rot, this is not good. This is still wet. So this happens to all of you. And when you're getting these plants that have been sitting around in moss a long time, I wish we had someone who had them in bark. I am not pulling this whole root system off because it's still growing here. And I'm hoping it will help. But all this in here, I'm going to take that off. Right in here, if it's soft, it's coming off. Okay, now this root here, this root was actually up near the surface of the media, and it dried. It wasn't wet, but look, it's still coming off. And now, I have been misting, but maybe like once a week. But still, I don't know. Our humidity's been quite high, and I think I may even quit misting for now. Because this is a sign. Not noticeable on the other orchids, but certainly noticeable on this one. So, what have we got left? We have this shoot here that's not real healthy up near the core. We have this aerial root. And we have these two aerial roots. So I wasn't far wrong when I said those aerial roots may be what saves this orchid. And I think it is savable. So this is the seaweed extract in my sink. And if I missed it, I'll make sure I just missed the aerial roots and I do not get any of the media wet. So it's going to be treated. Now, to make sure it stays, there's another little piece I should take off right in there. Yep, look at this. Yep, that was right in the center. So there's a lot of stuff in the center right in here. Now, oops. Now you guys can run into this, and we all will. We all will run into things that beautiful, healthy looking orchid flowers still prove it. But inside, because of all the rot I had when I first drop potted, I said, holy smokes, I'm going to just fluff out this moss until my bark is soaked for 3 days before I repotted. That's why I did the drop pot on the 6th and I did the potting on the 9th. So, okay, now what am I going to do? Okay, it's had its soak in seaweed, a really good soak. Probably 20 minutes, not necessary that long, but probably that's what it's had, leaves and all. So, here's the same bark I can use. But what am I going to do? We know that smaller pots dry out quicker than bigger pots. So I'm going to switch to a smaller pot, and so that will help this moisture that seems to be hanging around in this one. And like I say, our humidity has been, it's still I think 60% in our window, although we've got freezing cold sunny weather in the day and night. But we had a lot of moisture before that that's still in the air. So as your humidity differs. So I have only been watering once a week, and some of them I may not, I stretched out an extra day actually. I did it, I think I did Wednesday last week, and now I did Thursday, something like that. So we're going to put some bark in the bottom. We're going to hope we, hey, this is, have you ever had one of those orchid days? You have no idea. But anyway, yeah, I think you do, I think you do. So, because I had another accident when I was watering. I had my great big oldest traffic cone in the middle of the kitchen floor. So I backed up, knocked it over, broke 2 leaves right across, but not separated from the orchid. So I'll show you how I patched that up. So we all have those days. I guess it's like life. You have those days. It's how you deal with them that counts. I mean, you can't change it. You've already did it. And there's no sense screaming, hollering. That won't change either. So, okay, so then you start thinking, well, how are we going to solve the problem? Like with this, how are we going to solve the problem? What are we going to do that maybe we can save this orchid? Okay, things we know. We know smaller pots are drier. It doesn't have many roots anyway, so it doesn't need that deep pot, which for some reason it doesn't like. We'll see how this continues. We'll pot it up. I will not be misting if I do anything, maybe wrap a damp paper towel around these aerial roots as long as the media is staying dry. Once winter is kicked in here though, the furnace is on a lot and the air gets really dry, then we're in a different situation. And our situation changes. Naturally, weather's always been changing. So I'm just, always when I'm repotting, I hold the core of the orchid and I kind of pull up on it and then I tap it down with my fingers. So I get it firmly in there. I've seen some people after they repot to prove it's firmly in there, they'll pick them up and the pot stays with them, but that works for plastic pots, but not for these heavy pots because the pot would just come off. So anyway, that's about all we can do. There are some times you just, doesn't matter what you do. So, but anyway, so we patched this one up. We're putting it here. I'm going to sort of wipe it off after. And I'm not using this pot again, but I am going to just put the bark that was in here into this pot. Of course, I used to be able to get the great big bark, and this is the medium-sized bark, and it seems okay for the others. But if you have a pot that's not drying out real good, then you may want to add some styrofoam peanuts to improve air, or something bigger, or switch your pot to bigger holes. Smaller pot. But most of the time in the summertime, of course, we're arid and dry and we want that more room. But seeing I decided to look at that one I have not watered yet, because what do? You check before you water. Okay, this one was potted into this pot on May 8th. So it's been quite a while, and if you've got one that's been quite a while, it doesn't hurt to check it. It's doing pretty good. It has a new leaf coming, but I thought, just for curiosity, I'd dump this out, see how it looks. Now it hasn't had its water yet, and I will water it after. So let's just see how this one is. Well, this one's dry as a bone. So there you are, same watering schedule. Maybe I was misting too much. Could be. I try not to. I try to stand back and miss, but it happens. So anyway, this one had nice big holes, and it's definitely dry as a bone. It is dry as a bone. Now, I haven't watered it yet, and I want to show you if there's anything we need to tidy up. This sort of proves why dry is better. So the healthy roots, they're nice and green. New roots, another new root coming there. This root's nice and green, hasn't had water. This root, this is before watering, after a week. These are good, these are good. Now in here in the core, of course these are the ones that when you repot an orchid, they're always the ones you lose. They have been in that moss, they haven't had air, they've been compacted usually. But now it's just dry, so I can pull some of this out of here. So it's very dry, and I would rather see this than wet and gooey. So these roots are probably not doing too much. We'll see when I soak it. I'll soak it, and then we'll come back and look after I show you what I did to my other orchid. So there's probably nothing I need to do. I mean, it's getting a new leaf. These ones are pretty healthy, and this is quite normal for orchids where you're changing your media and you lose roots. But these roots are lost because they were too long in compacted moss, and they had quit working. They were no longer doing their job, and in time they just rot in the moss, or you've repotted them so they'll dry up like this or whatever. But what have we got? We got healthy everywhere else. And yes, I could cut this off, but what I'm going to do is just pull off the ones that are real awful. And I hate to cut that close to the core. I would rather not. We'll see what we got because anytime you cut, you sterilize those scissors for sure, your pruners, and then cut, and then put a little bit of cinnamon just on that. Be careful with the cinnamon because it will dehydrate everything it lands on. So that, and you can spray with a little bit of alcohol to kill anything that bacteria that might be present. But even this dry one, I see it's green inside, so let's soak it. We'll just plop it into the sink where I have some seaweed water. And while we do that, we'll come back and we'll show you. This is just a short video, so we'll let it soak, and I'll show you what I did to my big orchid, and I'll show you how the other ones are looking, and we'll come back. And I'll probably repot this. Okay. Okay. Just been a fun day. Just a fun day. Okay, wait till you see what I've done. So anyway, I knocked it over, and where are those splits? I've done such a good job here. Okay, this way. Oh yeah, there. I don't know if you can see that line that goes right across. That, because these leaves are so crisp, it just bent over. And same here, under here. You can see a split that goes right across. The leaf actually broke, but the bottom didn't. So this is one of those elastic bandages that don't stick but stick together, and I used the flower spike metal, the stake, and I tied it up so the seams where it broke are being held together, and I'm going to hope it mends like that. My favorite orchid. Now, you're all favorites, just wait. Don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But I think it will just heal if I just leave it. It'll be a week before I touch it again. But luckily nothing worse happened, so it's safely back in the window. And the little minis, this is Seagull mini here. It's been getting lots of new leaves. I've not had a flower on it. I've searched on eBay, on this internet. Not too many people have any results with this one. Or this is felt. This one's growing good, but I'd like to see more leaves. And of course, Horella retricella. She usually blossoms quite readily, and she's still doing good. So I see. These are good. They dry out quickly, but even in the summer, they were totally healthy. And there's a spike coming on this one, and we got this one up here. Okay, now these ones, these ones at one time looked just about as bad as the one I just showed you. The two of them I got, and they had scale, and they were rot inside. They were very bad. And of course this one's really perked up. It has a spike coming now. This one has a new leaf and a spike. So, and of course here's the other one I abused. I dropped, hit over the white traffic cone, and but it's got a hole there. It's dried up and it seems happy. So let's check out the other ones, and then we'll go back and see if it's looking a lot better. Hi, Maggie. You be good. Okay, this is my oldest orchid, and I did try to pull back some of this really hard, dry outer covering so I get more roots, because come the next growing season, I will be cutting this off. This root goes right to the bottom of this pot. This is my oldest orchid, and it struggled. As you see, the leaves were coming smaller, and it needs, so I've been spraying here with a little bit of seaweed fertilizer, just a bit in my small mister, and trying to get these roots to really come so I have something substantial when I repot it in growing season. So there is lots of spikes coming, and here's a look at what's going on in here. The rest are doing pretty good. There's Moonglow and her spike. There's lots of small spikes coming, so we're looking forward to that. And let's go back to the kitchen sink. Okay. See, you shouldn't take more than a few minutes to notice something. So here's my seaweed extract. There's, I use a 1/4 teaspoon a gallon, and this sink holds 4 gallons, 4 to 5 gallons of water. So that's good. But I have a 1/4 teaspoon. See, here I measured. But then for some of my watering cans and smaller bowls I use, I had the 1/4 teaspoon out. So, see if I can keep my sleeve dry. Okay, let's see. Okay, there is a close-up. Now I could cut some of this off. Yeah. It was sad when we looked at it, but I have hopes. We have something going here that's good, and I think it'll be okay. I'm not gonna cut anything off, but I will be keeping a close watch because we got some nice green ones coming, and it's just enough to be keeping this one going. So that's what it's like, and I understand when people right away they think, oh my goodness, I'm going to lose this orchid. And you can think that way. So I'm going to put the bark back in the pot, and then I'm going to soak this pot, because the bark is the part that really needs it. And the orchid needs it, but the bark too, so that it still will keep that humidity in the pot. So that's why I like bark, because you tend to be on the drier side. And even when some of these really dry up, they'll still be healthy ones. And that's why I really like bark. And especially when you're trying to save these orchids that have suffered. The way they get so many flowers is stress on the orchid. If you stress the orchid, it will try and flower, so it survives. So they stress it by changing the temperatures. They stress it by different potting methods, and then it gets put on a truck, and then it goes in a store. And you know, in our store here, it's right by the open doors where they keep their, and it's cold outside, like it's freezing. We have ice on the pond. So yeah, stress. So this one I'm sure is going to be fine, so I'll put it back in the pot. And we're talking about, these are my worst orchids I'm showing you, and we got one more. Okay, this is one. This is one Mom picked out. She fell in love with. It was also in terrible shape. And this is why. If you live somewhere where you want to have an orchid and you can buy a healthy orchid from somebody, do it. Do it, because if you buy a saved orchid, you got your work cut out for you. And it can be done. All of my orchids except the 3 minis and my 2 slipper orchids, they're all from the grocery store. All my phalaenopsis are from the grocery store, bought in moss and changed to bark. So it can be done. I've seen it many times and they survive, but sometimes you get one that just can't make it over the hump. And this is one of those. And I've been hanging on to this, and I didn't look up the date of this, but it was a long time ago. So there is nothing left on this orchid. And I still haven't threw it out, but I'm going to show you. This thing is living on nothing. There is one funny looking root, if you can call it that. It is firm, but it's brown. Right there. And over here is the tiniest little root. That is it. It's dry as a bone. It's trying to get another leaf. I have been this close to putting it in the compost, and I still haven't, because it was a it looked like a species orchid, Kyoto Twinkle Chocolate Dream, or Drop, Chocolate Drop. Now, one of the orchid people helped me name this, and because they had one similar. And so I think this was a species one that they shipped off, or I don't know, it looked like one. But it just never was good, and it's still, I mean, is it ever going to do anything? I don't know. I'm going to water it, and I'm going to keep trying. That's it. Those are my sad orchids, and we all have them. And what do? I mean, there's a time when you have to say, you just can't save it. But look at all the ones we have saved. You have to look on the positive side. We do our best, and you know what? What will be, will be. The future is not ours to see. So anyway, thanks for joining me. And an unplanned video. I just thought I was going to fix these, and I thought, you know, I should show you guys what's going on watering day. Even when I'm not planning on doing a watering day, when something comes up, I have to deal with it. So thanks for joining me, and love you always. Bye now.